Valorization of ancient farming techniques in resilient and sustainable agriculture. Co-funded by the Erasmus Plus program of the European Union. The European Commission's support for the production of this publication does not constitute an endorsement of the contents, which reflect the views only of the authors, and the Commission cannot be held responsible for any use which may be made of the information contained therein. Trade. How and when the exchange of goods had led to trade is not really known. Exchange of objects must have been present even in the earliest societies. Barter must have been the initial form of trade, as money has not yet been invented. Travelers must have seen the benefits of trade more, as the novelties they carried around obviously must be in high demand by other communities. When they brought back new items, some people must have shown interest in them. Having observed the benefits of barter, some travelers might have adapted trade as a way of living. Knowing what is in demand and where to obtain them would give travelers an upper hand in such trade. A trade between two villages might have extended to more and more villages. There's a game theoretical support to why many sellers cluster at some location and time. Sellers coming together at so-called bazaars would draw in buyers, which in turn attract more sellers and buyers. Trade between nearby communities probably grew to longer distance trade. Domestication of plants and animals began independently in the Middle East, Mesoamerica, China, and Papua New Guinea from 11th millennia to 6th millennia BC. Rise of the agriculture led to settlements like Çatalhöyük in Anatolia, the Indus Valley, and Egyptian civilizations, and later to Sumerian civilization. First settlers of Çatalhöyük were probably hunter-gatherers. Later, though, they had undergone the Neolithic Revolution. Storage of cereals, such as wheat and barley, have been found. Peas were also grown. Fruits and nuts, such as almonds and pistachios, were harvested. Sheep were domesticated, and there is evidence that cattle domestication had started. It appears that there is an industry based on producing obsidian tools and pottery. They must have been used and traded for items such as flintstone from Syria and seashells from the Mediterranean. Salt is also thought to be traded. The existence of trade definitely shows that there are other settlements nearby. One such settlement is Hacılar, 200 kilometers west of Çatalhöyük. Both Hacılar and Çatalhöyük lie pretty much on the east-west route that will later become part of the Silk Road. These self-sufficient hunter-gatherers and early farmers, who were forced to find or produce everything they needed or simply wanted, could trade grain for milk, milk for a pot, pot for clothing. When settlements grew into larger cities, whole cities might have adopted the same approach. If you don't have it, then trade. The earliest long-distance trade is believed to have occurred between Mesopotamia and Indus Valley around 3000 BC. Initially, only lightweight but valuable items such as textiles, precious metals, and spices were traded. Journeys were long, hard, and dangerous, but the prospects of high profits lured many middlemen into long-distance trade. Regions rich in sought-after items became financially rich as well. In a relatively short time, trade expanded to whole Middle East, North Africa, the Mediterranean, and whole Eurasia. By the 2nd millennium BC, regions with rich resources were exporting heavily. Cyprus copper, Egypt papyrus and wool, Britain tin, China jade, spices, and later, of course, silk. Trade also created middleman nations as well. Expert seafarers, Phoenicians, were weaving a trade fabric between the 25th and 5th centuries BC, reaching a high point around 1000 BC. One of the famous trade routes is the incense route, linking Mediterranean and the sources of incense and spices to the east. Although it existed from 2500 BC, the peak of the incense trade was roughly between 7th century BC and 2nd century AD. Then, of course, one of the most famous of all trade routes is the Silk Road. Silk Road connected East and West from the 2nd century to almost the 18th century. Today, sea and land routes are still connecting East and West. The presented video has been originally designed and prepared by Makro and will be used as training material of VALOR project.